Welcome back everyone to Coach to You. I'm your host, Coach Regina, and today I am back with another video. Today's topic will be facing rejection. We're going to talk about how each individual may express their forms of rejection. We'll talk about how um, communication in general, the way it's felt, can also feel like rejection as well. Sometimes no communication at all can also feel like rejection. Either way, we're going to just dive into this topic, just kind of hands on you guys a little bit so that you can be able to utilize the applications that I'm going to share with you in your own experience. Now, before going forward, I want to go ahead and give my disclaimer. Although I'm a student of psychology, I'm not a licensed healthcare physician. All information and content on this channel stems from my personal experience and extensive research on the topic. If you feel that you have a mental health condition, please consult a medical professional for professional advice. I want to thank you guys for taking time to listen to this content. Stay with me to the end as I go into deeper understanding on, again, how rejection, even from the standpoint of communication, as well as how it affects us on a physiological level, okay? So to jump in, the lessons of rejection can be delivered in a myriad of forms. A relationship ending, a school denying your application, a job opportunity not going through, unexpected financial delays, an adolescent experiencing daunting feelings of being dismissed, excluded, or unwanted. Whatever the extent of rejection is, it is a universal human experience that activates the same brain regions associated with physical pain, often making it difficult to express oneself and how we feel it deeply on a personal and threatening level to one's sense of self and their sense of well-being. So again, whether it's on a personal or professional level, the sting of rejection awaits us all. One aspect of rejection could come from, as I mentioned, a relationship ending where you thought that this relationship was going to be something that was going to be, for eternity, where you felt yourself clinging to this person, feeling a sense of attachment, if you will, even codependency that may have derived from that relationship. When you attach your sense of self to these experiences, when you begin to experience rejection because in some aspect of the relationship that person's needs and wants change and you no longer fit that criteria, when you begin to experience that sense of rejection, again, the particular brain regions that are activated begins to cause a heightened sense of alertness, let's see, sadness, anger, whatever it begins to affect you on a physiological level. That person feels that threat and it's real to them. Okay? Especially if that situation reminds them of some form of trauma that they experienced as a child. It brings all of those feelings back front and center in that particular experience. So that's pertaining to a relationship ending, right? Let's talk about a denial of a job where you felt your sense of connectedness, where maybe your friend worked there, and the person talks about this job all the time and you tell them, hey, put in a good word for me and everything, and you don't have all the ins and outs as to what the qualifications are for the job, but you apply for it, and after some time delay, you get back a report that you're not qualified for the job. As with the relationship ending, this too can be a very daunting experience where you begin to tie your sense of self-worth to not receiving that job. This thing can trigger feelings of uneasiness, fear, dread, discomfort, and uncertainty in your sense of self. Another one is unexpected financial delay, where you have been on this trajectory of paying your bills on time, making sure that you manage your finances etc. But all of a sudden, a tragedy occurs. One aspect of tragedies that many people faced was with the pandemic, where people lost their jobs, they lost their main source of income, they lost, their place to live, and their gainful employment at that time. That unexpected delay sends people in a sporadic sense of need and a tendency to try to figure out a plan of escape from this dreadful experience. The problem with that is that when we, as a people, again, have tied our sense of self to these material, pursuits, when we experience this loss, it begins to bring up all sorts of feelings that are attached to our sense of normalcy in our life. And depending on where we are in our life, this can lead to feelings of depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, feelings of isolation, and whatever the case may be. However, that person, one thing I want to point out is that no two people experience the same situation the same way. Okay? When you may experience a job loss, rejection, family abandonment, or whatever the case may be, you may experience it different from your counterparts or your other peers. Okay, and that's one thing I want to point out is that depending on where your internal state is, ultimately determines how you will begin to experience the fear or the physiological influence of that experience. Okay, from a personal level, um, being financially responsible is very important to me. So therefore, experiencing unexpected financial delay set me back on a trajectory of feelings of failure, inadequacy, fear of loss, uncertainty, and so forth. This emotional roller coaster began to bring up all sorts of feelings that stem from my childhood, where I faced abandonment and feelings of being lost, um, and not recognizing my sense of self, if you will. So how I experience it may also be different to how you experience it. Okay. Let's go to the other one where I talked about an adolescent experiencing a daunting feelings of being dismissed, excluded, or unwanted. This here, it can be very, very, very harsh because when we're dealing with adolescents, their brains are not fully developed to the magnitude of an adult. So facing rejection for them can really, really affect them in a very, very harsh way, as opposed to someone who may have felt rejection, overcome it, overcame it in certain aspects, and then grew from it, but recognize that if they experience it again, they have the certainty of knowing that I can survive this. Whereas an adolescent, on the other hand, this may be their first experience with facing this form of exclusion, rejection, or abandonment, and exclusion, if you will. This can bring up the emotional impact that often leads to feelings of low self-esteem, unworthiness, low self-worth, sadness, anger, and anxiety. It can trigger a primitive fear of being cast out of the group, which historically is a sense of threat from that person's survival. But again, as an adolescent, they're not aware of this. And if, God forbid, if their parents have never sat down to help them understand that in life, you will face rejection. You will feel feelings of being excluded from social groups where you no longer fit in, etc. But I want to encourage you that this does not have to be tied to your sense of self-worth. If that adolescent has not received that sort of feedback for when life occurs, they're going to take it on a whole nother level. This is what has led to statistically adolescents being suicidal, as well as suicidal tendencies, as well as feeling abandoned by their peers. I talked about the psychological roots that this often occurs, and how the caregiver's responsibility is to help the adolescent feel that they can overcome this. At the time, the emotions are really on a higher roller coaster, and so being able to be received at that time is also daunting for that parent, where that parent may begin to experience rejection if that child is not adept to being able to receive them at that time. You got closed doors, you got slammed doors, pouting, withdrawal, and all this here, and that parent has to be able to be psychologically inclined to be able to handle that form of rejection as well from their child. Okay? At the end, in the end, facing rejection is deeply personal and threatening to one's sense of self and belonging. As I mentioned earlier, these particular feelings can lead to feelings of fear, anxiety, inadequacy, and low self-worth. So how do we cope with these particular feelings of rejection? I gave you a little bit of personal experience from, how I, experienced rejection, especially as it related to like financial aspects. But let's talk about it from a perspective of friendships or social circles, okay? So we all know that every one of us were born at specific times in our life, okay? And how our personalities come out may be different in different social groups. And some personality traits are not as keenly aware on how to behave in certain social gatherings. We come to the perspective of how emotional intelligence plays a key role in being able to interact with certain social environments, okay? How you carry your tone, how you behave in an eating setting, okay? How you communicate, different parts of, let's say, I want to use this from an everyday perspective. Let's say, for me, psychology is really, really important. I'll utilize that perspective. I love to talk about psychology. I love to talk about personal growth and development, right? But most social gatherings that you encounter, that's not where the conversations are generally gearing. People tend to talk about more personal situations, such as what did you eat for last week's dinner, or so girl, what are you doing with this relationship that you have going on, and things like that. Or people want to talk about family, things like that. And for me, being able to have balance is something that I am actually learning, where I would like to gear the conversation more towards personal growth, psychology, and development. That is actually not considered a normal social interaction for people, especially if that's not why the interaction gathered from the first place. I recognize that oftentimes this would leave me wanting to try to dominate the social group and try to hone in the interaction more towards my level of comfort. After leaving these encounters, I would often feel that this situation could have went better. I would often leave feeling empty, as though I could have said something different or things like that, or I may not be received thereafter, in another encounter. A lot of times what I'm now understanding is that these forms of rejection often stems from our childhood experiences. No two persons are experiencing the same form of rejection or life path in their current state of influence. And so for me, social interactions was like a pivotal point of understanding that I need to be able to learn how to adjust in social interactions, right? So that was something that was key for me, being able to learn how to communicate effectively, learn how to lower the levels of anxiety that I began to experience in social connections, okay? For someone else, theirs may be relationship issues, where that person is in their state of experience in their life, it may be constantly dealing with relationship issues, where every 3 to 4 months, this person may be experiencing some form of rejection in relationships. Okay? For another person, their particular state of experience may be for financial aspects or job loss, where every time you're around that person, they're constantly experiencing some form of job switch and so forth. Regardless of where we are in our state of experience, it's all about growth and development. And these experiences are often pivotal in being able to determine where we experience some form of childhood delay, um, adolescent failure, setbacks, or whatever the case may be. Now, when I mention adolescent failure, I want to be able to make it clear that recognizing what is necessary for your journey to heal and move on when you're facing a rejection is, first of all, recognizing that rejection is not a personal sign of failure. It could be just failing in the moment of when the experience occurred. I could have handled it different. Okay? That's just a momentary sense of failure. Whereas tying failure to your sense of self-worth is completely different. This particular sense of failure is basically, like I mentioned, your childhood, where as a child you recognize that if you didn't do something right, you receive backlash from a family member or your parent, someone that you held in high esteem as a caregiver or a caretaker, and they bashed you and made you feel that you were not valuable and you were not worthy. Okay, that sense of failure is more in depth than it is a momentarily sense of failure where you could have done something differently. Okay, being able to recognize where you are in your state of influence in your life for whatever the universe is bringing this experience into your life is crucial for your own sense of growth. This is key because if someone is experiencing growth in relationships for their season of life, if someone is experiencing growth in their health, growth in their finances, every aspect of your life is strictly determined based off of whatever your soul's correction is calling for. And when you face rejection, oftentimes it brings up that myriad of emotional feelings that you feel that leads to recognizing why these setbacks are there in the first place. Understanding that we all have seasons of life that we go through that cause us to have to experience a certain trajectory of life that may thrust you into another season of your life. Okay, this is also different from the personal growth that you must endure in order to deal with your soul's correction as to why you came here in the first place. Okay, so recognizing strategies to help you heal and move on are essential to being able to deal with the sting of rejection that is essential to everyone in life. Okay, no one is immune to it, from celebrities to social elites to people that are high up on the scale. I just read some post that came across my social media platform where this wealthy CEO, a millionaire, did something in error, and this person here began to experience a whole host of rejection, backlash, and things of that nature. And guess what? His money couldn't save him. So no one is immune to it. We're all here to experience life on a fundamental level that is critical to your state of influence, experiences, and your sense of personal growth and development. Okay? So one, recognizing that rejection is not a sign of personal failure is one that is very essential to being able to understand that whatever I'm experiencing at this state in my life, it is calling for different parts of growth in me. Being able to sit with yourself and being able to understand what it is that is this particular season or experience is calling for helps to kind of alleviate that fear of failure that is tied to your own sense of personhood. Okay? Two, Everyone is facing some sort of season in their own lives. This is what I was mentioning earlier. Everyone is going through something in their own life, and your situation just may be different from your counterparts or your peers and so forth. Making sure that you are not doing what's called we call it like bonding. It's like trauma bonding. Trauma bonding is very, very crucial, because you can be going through a particular season in your life, but based off of this person's trauma and your interaction of sphere of influence, you'll begin to take on this person's situation as opposed to dealing with what you're supposed to go through in your own life. Making sure that you are recognizing what season you are in your life is crucial to being able to make sure that you don't spiritual bypass your life's experiences in order to appease this person's personal trauma. Okay? Number 3, allow yourself to process your emotions fully. Acknowledge the hurt, the sadness, or disappointment you feel without judgment, and give yourself permission to grieve the loss or setback. I cannot stress this enough. One aspect of emotional healing for myself is that I wasn't aware that it is okay to feel the emotion. I came from a very difficult childhood where expressing emotions was not warranted. It's like they would be pushed back down, or you would be brandished for crying or expressing yourself and things like that. So as I grew up, I put up this wall of fear and this aspect of no one's going to control me, no one's going to make me feel invalid and things of that nature. The problem of that is that it leads to toxic behaviors and the inability to express oneself in a way that is healthy. Being able to feel your emotions is essential for the body being able to get permission to release those emotions. That is the only way, from a psychological perspective as well, that you can be able to release them. Otherwise, those emotions become trapped and stored in the body without you being able to acknowledge them and feel the hurt and sadness that is associated with your need to heal and go through whatever rejection you're experiencing at that moment. Number 4, refrain from the rejection as an opportunity. Reframe the rejection as an opportunity for growth by asking what lessons or insights that you can gain from the experience, and consider how it might redirect you toward something better suited for you. I love this particular part because this is one aspect of me being able to heal emotionally. But when I started this podcast, many years ago, I recognized that one of the biggest things for me was being able to learn how to reframe any aspect of emotional trauma, rejection, or abandonment as a means of opportunity. Being able to take it as a form of growth by asking what lessons or insight that I am supposed to learn from this experience. Whatever a question you ask, one of the key aspects of recognizing is that you come here with a purpose. And whatever your years of experience on this earth entails, whether it's 50 years, 60 years, or beyond, you have a purpose that must be fulfilled. And whatever is needed for you to fulfill that purpose is basically tied to the other side of you overcoming those setbacks that are essentially opportunities for growth. But in order to do that, you must recognize them as such. And being able to do that entails you reframing the situation from the perspective of the ego, not using this as a means of keeping you in a state of fear, uncertainty, and dread. Okay? And this is oftentimes what the ego does. It utilizes the subconscious programming to keep you stuck in familiar patterns of self-defeating thoughts and self-sabotage. It's really hard because initially I had a lot of anger from this experience, okay? And then I began to just allow myself to process those emotions. Like I mentioned it before, I didn't know that was doable. And I would keep these emotions bottled up, and when they began to come out, it would explode in moments of anger at myself, at others, and at the world. This here is the most toxic thing you can do, because you have people in your life that need you. They need you to be at your best. They need you to be at a sense of calm and at ease. And then no one is going to be there 100% of the time. But if every time you're going through something, if you're lashing out emotionally at others, people can't trust you. They don't feel safe. And they don't trust that you are able to for them to be able to lean on for when their sense of self is unraveled as well. And let me tell you something. Everybody needs that. Everybody needs to be able to have someone that they can just say, look, do you have a moment? I just need to be able to talk. And I just need to be able to communicate, something that I'm going through. And guess what? You need that at times. So you need people in your life too that overcoming their toxic traits, so that where they're not dumping their emotional turmoil on you as well. Okay. Number 5 is being able to, like that, reach out to supportive friends, family members, or mentors who can provide encouragement, a healthy perspective, and empathy that helps to remind you that you are not alone in your struggles. So that literally confirms, what I just mentioned there, that look, being able to reframe your situations, being able to overcome those emotional setbacks gives you that momentum to be able to heal in areas where you weren't not whole initially. And in that, you can be able to have supportive help when you have that need for yourself as well. Number 6 is practicing self-compassion by treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend. Avoiding harsh self-criticism or negative self-talk. Now, this here is another one that I feel that is critical, because one thing is that I used to be so hard on myself that I didn't give myself the proper internal narrative that was needed to be able to have a core element of you matter, Gina. You are important. You play a crucial role in the world, and your words and the input that you have are valuable. So I would have this internal narrative that was so harsh and condescending to myself at times. So you got to think, if I'm that way to myself, I was also that way to others, as also into my environment. That judgment of myself and that harsh criticism made it hard for me to be able to hear my own voice in a positive way. Guess what? I began to heal in a way that allowed myself to speak positivity to myself. The internal dialogue now is so peaceful to myself that I want to hear those encouraging words. I literally say to myself, you are worthy. You are valuable. You matter. Everything is working together for your highest good. You are overcoming. This too shall pass. And I feel this sense of gratitude in myself that I was able to give myself that, because guess what? I had given it to the world for so long. I too was deserving of that sense of joy, that sense of optimism, and that sense of hope. Number 7, engaging in activities that restore your sense of self-worth and confidence, such as hobbies, pursuing your hobbies, setting small achievable goals, or volunteering to help others. For me, this right here it helps to build that self-esteem in myself. When I inspire you guys, man, it gives me the momentum to be able to push through, to know that I'm capable of accomplishing anything. And this too shall pass. I will get through whatever hurdle and whatever setback that I am currently experiencing in my life. And guess what? You too also. Taking walks. I walk 6 miles a day, you guys. 3 miles there and 3 miles back. That has been the most healthy thing that I could do for my sense of well-being. That helps to release endorphins that give you a sense of momentum to keep persevering. Because you got to think, I had to get there. I also got to get back. I can't sit and wallow in my mess. I own this trajectory of these emotional setbacks that I was experiencing, as well as growing towards healing and motivating myself to keep going. And I will get past the depression. I will get past the bipolar. I will get past the anxiety. being able to push myself on those walks was critical in being able to help me find the self-confidence to continue in my goals, because I didn't know this at first, but what was happening is that whenever I would have the emotional lows, I wouldn't walk. I wouldn't exercise. Okay, and I didn't realize at the time, but that was my ego utilizing the self-sabotaging behavior to keep me in a sense of isolation and to keep me in those negative spiraling loops of dread, fear, and inadequacy. I recognized that my path to healing involved me practicing to continue even when I didn't want to continue to persevere even when everything was against me, when the odds were against me. And guess what? I kept doing it, guys. I kept pushing and I kept going. And every morning I would wake up, give me 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m., I'm up doing my meditation, sitting with myself, allowing myself to process emotions that I didn't know that I could. And then afterwards doing my walk, my 3 miles there and my 3 miles back. That has been a great sense of emotional healing that was necessary for me. Engaging those activities helped to begin to release more positive momentum to be able to continue despite what was going on in my current circumstances. The last one was keeping a broader perspective by remembering that past successes and rejections that you have overcome before. This right here is like crucial. You have overcome setbacks, rejections, fear, uncertainty, job loss, broken relationships, feeling unwanted. You've overcome this so many times before. Did you overcome them by remembering? Probably not. But if I can encourage you that this here is the most crucial moment where you can recognize that I can keep a broader perspective, that I was able to overcome my emotional setbacks, my financial fears, my uncertainty, the job loss, the broken relationships, by changing your perspective. Recognizing that whatever I'm going through is essential for my own personal growth and development, and I will get through this. But one thing you can do in the interim is you can remember that when you were there at that point and it felt so low and you felt like giving up, that if you just continue to hold fast to the state of your why as to why you continue in the first place, or why you begin in the first place, you'll get through this. For me, my why is my children. Recognizing that my children didn't ask to be here. Me allowing my ego to take me onto these spiraling emotional lows that was leading to thoughts of suicide, anxiety, and depression. They were not conducive to the path that I wanted for my children, which is to have a mother that is present, that is here, and that is capable of offering love and support even when I'm going through something. Guys, I want you to know that you are able to overcome rejection. You have the momentum inside of you. You just have to dig in there just like I had to and discover it. My name is Coach Regina. I want to thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned for my next video. Let me know in the comments if you want to hear part 2 of this video, Facing Rejection. Take care.